So today we are making an envelope border. Now I need to show you an example of that so you know what I'm talking about. So I have this really big blanket here. This is my Havana I made when the cowl was on, and if you look up Havana cowl you'll know what I'm talking about. But this is the border that I'm doing. Of course I turned the one over that's got an end sticking out. So the main part of the blanket is here, and all of this grey is the border. The one I'm going to do today is not this thick, but it's the same principle. So this is the good side and this is the back side, and this is mosaic crochet, so the back is just looking like stripes and then the front has got the drop down details. I'm not going to be doing this fancy stuff because this is the Havana pattern. So anyway, so that's what I'm going to be doing. So we'll just get that out the way. And I'm going to be doing it on this blanket, which was on the title card. And for those who want to know, this was the pattern I used. I'll hold it up so you can read it. There we go. But what I did, the pattern's on the back. It's just a free leaflet that came in the reject shop in where I live. This is for a full-size blanket. I reduced it to 100 stitches wide. So this pattern, but with only the 2 balls of wool I used and not as wide. So it has made a blanket that is fairly square. Why am I showing you the back? I don't know. This is the front. So this is our blanket, and as you can see down both the sides it has a plain side and a pattern side and a lot of ends. And because of it being a mohair blend, it's very transparent. And if I hold it, you can see, maybe you can see my hands underneath it. It's a very light blanket. I think it'll make a really good baby blanket. But to weave the ends in, you would see them, and I didn't really want that. So I thought I will do an envelope border on this to hide the ends and to also put a stronger yarn around the edge, because it's a baby blanket. It's going to be washed a lot. So I got this yarn, which I think matches in with the darker green, and this is an anti-pill as well, so it means the more they use it, it's still going to look the same. It's not going to fluff up, so that will be good. So I've got 2 of those, which should be ample, because when you make the envelope border you've got 2 sides to it, and all the edges and ends are encased within the 2 sides. So you need a little bit more yarn than you think. And I also got another yarn. I don't know why I keep going too far forward. This is the yarn I'm going to use to do the slip stitch round so that I can see it. You need something you can see, because you have to be able to pick up the slip stitches to hang your border off. Hopefully that makes sense. So the first thing I'm going to do is we need to do the slip stitch round. Now the top and the bottom will be fine because we'll just go into each stitch. And I worked in the back bumps on the beginning row, so I've now got a nice V. Go the right way, this way. See the V for the stitches along the top? So that'll be fine, but the sides with the ends have a different tension. So what we have to do is, the first thing we have to do is mark the middle, and I'm going to do that with my stitch markers. Bring them all over. So just fold it in half and mark. This is just to give us a guide when we're doing the slip stitching on how many we've got to put in. Make sure it's all level. So we put a marker here. So that's halfway. Then we want to fold that. So that's in line with that. So we put another one here. All right, so that's quartered that one. And now we put one here. And once I put this in, that will have divided our 100 stitches. And I can get this one through. You need it through a stitch, not just on the string. right? So this has now been divided into 1, 2, 3, 4 different sections. So as I said, on the straight sides I had 100 stitches, so I want to be putting 100 stitches along this edge, and I will know if we divide it in half there'll be 50 stitches between these two. Get in the right place. 50 stitches between these two, and then 25 between these two. This hand's in the wrong place. I aren't used to where the field of vision is yet on this camera. Alright, so I just do that on the other end, and I'll just fold them over because it's square. They will match up. And that way I can space out my slip stitches where I need them to be. So get this exactly in half. So one in here, just on the edge, just through the last stitch of the row. Try and use the ones that are a different colour so you can see them. And the last one, this one's not going to be a different colour, but we can still see it. There it is. Alright, so that's done for the two sides where the ends are. So to start with, I will probably start in the middle of this row. So we'll just get our middle of our yarn. Make sure we're digging in the middle. See if I can get the ends first off. Pop goes the weasel. Big bit of yarn bath, but you get that. Go into the middle of this yarn bath, and then into the middle of this yarn bath. We'll get there in the end. Yeah. Come on, play nice. Alright, we found the end. We've got a lot of yarn bath to get through, but we'll probably use it, so that's all good. So we do our slip knot to start. Now, the next thing I want to say, this blanket was all done with a 5.5 because of it having mohair in it. It used a larger hook than normal. The border yarn will be done in a 4. Or a 5 or a 4.5. I have to wait until I start doing it to see which one looks best. So I've got a 4 and a 4.5 here. Bring them down so you can see them. But I'm going to do the slip stitch row in the biggest hook so that the stitches themselves are not too tight. So all slip stitch is pulling it through. Pulling it through. Now you want to not be too tight with this. You want to be very loose hand. So I'll just do this. Alright, so this is the last stitch here. Pull that through. Now I'm going to put a chain, and then I'm going to go into the top side of the first stitch and do our first one. So, and then I'm going to get a stitch marker, and I'm going to put that into the chain, because what that is our corner, and you need to know where that is if the stitch marker will go where I want it. There we go. Right, so we had one in the very end stitch, a chain, and then one in the side of that first stitch. So then we turn the work, and you won't see this. Your border will actually cover this up, but we needed to be able to have it a different colour so that we can find it. Because this other yarn is thicker than this, it will cover it up and you won't see it. If you pull the stitches apart really tightly, you might see a smidge of it, but not very much. And as we work along here, we know, because of our dividing, we have to get 25 slip stitches from this first one to that first one. And that's all we do. And you need to work out in your mind how many stitches you can get out of each one. So this was a DC. So I think I can get 2 out of each DC. And then we've got a single crochet is the next in the pattern. So that will be 1. And then 2. You got to try and be consistent. That way you don't have to count every single stitch multiple times. And so we've just done that one. We have a look. That looks fairly neat and even. So we'll carry on, and then I'll get to the first marker and check that I've got 25. And if I have more than 25, I'm going to pull it out and go back till I know I've got 25. You need to have the same on each side. If you're doing a square shape, it's the same on literally every side. If you're doing a rectangle, the top and the bottom have to match each other. The side and the side have to match each other. It will make the border so much easier to do if you do that. And that's all we do for this part. We'll be back once all the border is slip stitched, all the slip stitching done, and I'll show you how to add the first side, which will be the back, because what will happen is once we put the 2 loops on this side are way easier to see than the ones on this side, so we're going to start with this side so that once it's got the yarn hanging off it, we can still find the other side. Hopefully that makes sense to you, and I will see you in a bit. Okay, well, we're back again now, and we have finished doing the slip stitch edging. Every chain 1 I have put my stitch marker in, so I know which one's the chain 1. This is on every corner. One thing I forgot to say before is you want your ends between the sides of the slip stitch. So this is the front that you can see as you work it. This is the back, and the ends are between them, because we're going to hang stitches off here, stitches off there, and we're trying to hide the ends. So if you go over them, they'll be visible. Hopefully that makes sense to you. So I did the whole outside with the 5.5 just so that the slip stitch wasn't too loose. So for this yarn, which I'll just get it, this is the yarn, and this is a separate ball of the same yarn, so you know which one it is. So I'm using this. It's worked in a smaller hook than the blanket itself. I'm mainly doing that because I want the outer edge a bit more hard wearing than this mohair blend. I do suggest that you do your border in the same weight as your middle. The mohair, it's a bit deceptive, so it's not a really good one to say for weight, but this is what I'm going to use for the hard wearing rather than the weight issue. So we've already found the end and lost it under a light. There we go. There we go. And we're going to start in a corner, and we're going to start at the back. Now, that one there, actually no, I might start on the ragged edge so you can see how I do it. If we're going to start on the ragged edge, we need to go that way. I'll get it right in a minute. All right, so we'll put a slip stitch on our hook. And my first row, it is entirely choice. My first row I do as a half double crochet because it's just a little bit denser to get me off the fabric here. So I just, why am I using that hook? I don't know. This green yarn says to use a 4mm hook. I want this a little bit looser, so I'm going to start with a 4.5. I will see how I go. It's really, once you get going, you'll get a feel for what. And all we do, we get the one stitch. This is the other side of the chain 1, and we slip the hook under our slip stitch, and we do a half double crochet. So now my corners will be half double crochet, chain 1, half double crochet, because we don't want a wide corner. We want it to stay square, so we're not going to put lots in. And you just go under the slip stitch all the way down, one stitch in each. Now, if you have trouble getting under the slip stitch, there's a couple of things you can do. You can use a smaller hook to just make the stitch bigger. So you just wiggle it under, go like that and do it. That would be annoying for every single one, but you can do that. Your other option, this is called a cable needle, and it's got a smooth point. And you just go like that all you want to do is just lift it a little bit so you can get your hook under. So they're the two different things I use sometimes. I actually don't think I'll have a trouble with this yarn, because it does seem to, because my yellow yarn was a little bit shiny, it seems to not catch on the mohair. That's why I didn't want to use for the slip stitching the same mohair, because it actually mats itself up, and that's really annoying. So I'll just do a couple more. Some of my slip stitches are bigger than others, but what happens is that they even themselves out with the weight of the border. Here we go. Because you're only hanging all this off one stitch, so it is going to stretch, which is a good thing because we want it to even itself out. All right, I think that's probably enough of that. I'll pull that big so you can see. So now you can see, you can barely see that yellow at the base of my half double crochets. And you're just going to go all the way around. Do the back first. This is the back. Pom-poms are on the right. This is the back. And you can still get to these stitches because there's two of them. They're more visible. But if you do the other side first, you will not be able to find these. So do the back first. You need to put one, whatever you want to do, half double crochet, double crochet, whatever you like. Like I said, I just do half doubles because they're denser, just to get me away from the fabric of the crochet. One in every stitch, and then the corner where the chain one is that we've marked is one stitch, chain one, one stitch, and then move your marker up. If you want, get another set of markers for the back rounds so that you can keep this one on the front. And that's what you do. What I'll do is I will go around this, and I will come back when this row is done, get you up to the next row. But then after that, I'll come back when we're picking up the front, because I've got to decide how thick a border I want. Another thing I wanted to say is you might notice if I turn this way and I flip my edges in, hopefully you can see this because it's a good thing to show people, is if I put this straight, this end is only this big, but then it widens out here. This is it laying level and flat, lining up my rows. So line up my rows. But then if I bring this one down, it's doing the same thing in the opposite. Now, I have the same amount of stitches at the beginning of the rows to the end of the rows. What this is from only working on the right side, because what it does is it slants in the direction you're going. That's why having the same count of stitches on every row will help, because it will block your finished item straight, or it will help to. I'm still going to block this at the end just to give it a nice finish, but the weight of the border will help this become square. I know it sounds like magic and probably not going to work, but you see at the end, it will, if it's not already square, it'll be pretty close, and a little bit of light blocking will help. So I'll leave that for now. All you need to do is do your first row on the back, picking up one in every loop, and I'll be back when I have done that. I'm back again, and as you can see, I actually did 3 rows rather than the one. So what I was doing for each one is I was doing a chain 2 and then DCs. So we had our first half double crochet row, which I did show you, and then I've done 2 double crochet rows starting with a chain 2. I will be doing one more row, so that's why I did remember to stop and show you how to do that. So this one is my last double crochet. It is in the chain 1 of the corner, and then I have done the chain 1 after that, and then I'm reaching across, not to the chain 2, I'm reaching across to the first double crochet, and I am doing a slip stitch, and what that does, that slip stitch becomes the top of the chain 2, so it's actually chain 3. Now what I'm going to do is I go like this through the hole, pick up that loop, bring it to the front, give it a bit of length so it's not tight, and then I go chain 2. What that does, it puts me back into the chain 1 and it decreases the bulk. And now we need to put a double crochet into the top of the chain 2. It might be a little bit hard to get through, but you can do it. And that's that one. Double crochet, so 2 pull throughs, and then 1 in each one after that. So as I say, this is going to be the last row for the back. I'll just do one more. Put that down, put the stitch marker on. So you can see now, move that out away from underneath so we might be able to see better. These are our chain 1 corners, and this is the one we just did. So that's the chain 2 to start, and that's also going to become our first stitch within the corner. And then 1 in every stitch as we go. Yes, I know it's really dark yarn. It was just the one that matched this. Sorry. And this is what it looks like on the other side. This is our good side because we have the bubbles here. And there's all the ends. You don't need to make the border as wide as your ends. You can either lay them down or you can trim them so they sit within the border. That's what you do on the last row on the front. Just see whether you want to trim them or make them that size. So that's what we do there. Now I was going to show you how to start the front. Now because we started with this corner on the back, I like to do opposite corner so that then it doesn't make one corner more bulky than the rest with the joins and the coming upwards. So this is the opposite corner with the front, so we can see all our ends. And we get our yarn from our other ball. Once again, it will be a standing stitch to start, which means you put the loop on your hook already. We are still doing the same sequence of stitches. So the first one, going through the marked chain 1, take the stitch marker off and pulling through. That has lost my extra turn, so I just pull it back and then pull through the lot. And that's our first half double crochet. That's the first part of our corner. And then we're going under both loops of each stitch that we can see. If you had done your slip stitch row in a coordinating color, or you wanted to see it for some reason, you can just go into the back loop of this part. But what it will do, I'll actually do one so I'll show you. So I'll just go in the back loop of the next 3 so you'll see it better. 2 and 3. So going in the back loop, it does make that loop longer, and it will also give you a little thin line against your work. You see on those 3 stitches there? If you want to see that, that's fine. I don't particularly want to see it. So I am going to keep going through both loops. You can also, when you're all finished, is do a slip stitch row in your border colour over where it joins, going through both. I'll just pull that through like that. So that's just our first part of the front started. Now you can see the little dots of that. They may vanish as I get more of it done because the weight will pull that further in. But like I said, you can also do a slip stitch row over this into this little channel trench that's going to come on the top of your stitches. I will show you that when I come back to do the last row. So what I'll do the last row on the back and finish that off, and then I'll do the same height on the front. I am actually going to do the same, so it'll be 1 half double crochet row and then 3 double crochet rows. You can do different, you can do something fancy if you want, as long as your stitch count and your stitch height stays the same on the last row. And the fact that we made sure that we had 100 on each side means that by the time we get to the end, we should still have not 100 but 100 plus our increases in the corner on the last row. The main thing you have to remember with doing this border is to keep your counts the same. Don't add stitches. That's why your corners are most important where you join up. Don't add stitches. So I will be back when I've done that, and I will show you the last bit, which is how to join the back and the front together. And I might even show you how to do a surface slip stitch row here if you want to do it. I probably won't do it, but I will show you how to do it. So I'm all done now, and I'll just bring this down to show you. So we have the back and the front. I'll show you the corners. Now I did want to say you can have different corners if you like, but what you've got to watch is that you don't make them too protruding. Sometimes when you put two on each, it does make too much of a angle. We want to try and keep them fairly neat to the corner. So you can put two, or you can alternate like 2 double crochets and then only 1 double crochet like we've done on every row. That is entirely fine. But you need to remember you've got to repeat the same corner in every corner on both sides. So stick with what you start with. Yeah, so I've done this. From my 100-gram ball, I started on the second ball halfway through the last row at the front to give you some idea how much yarn it's used and how much weight it has added to the blanket. And the other thing I did is I trimmed the ends. As you can see, they're just short of the length of the border. So I've just trimmed them short. Now, if you were doing mosaic, which is what this border is usually used for, you would actually tie every second row together. So like these two would tie together, these two tie together, because with mosaic you're only using 2 colors at once. You know, one color used for every row and then a different color used for the next row. Tying them together will lock it off. These were all individual rows, so each end of each row has a knot on it, so I don't need to do that. So I had all of this cut off my 2 ends, quite a pile, but I have left enough. And then these are long enough that they should stay in place because of the halo, but short enough that they're not trying to force their way out because they've run out of room. So the next thing I want to show you is how to join it up. So what I've done with all of mine, except for the beginning one, is I've just put 1 stitch marker through both of the chain ones so that I know where they are. And what I'm going to do with mine, there's a few different ways you can do this. All I've done is I've joined up this last row with a slip stitch. I haven't done anything else to it. Get that out the way. And I am going to go into, now hopefully you can see this, I'm going into the back loop of the slip stitch. It's a little bit tight. I think we're going to get it. Yep, there we go. And then I also want to go into the back loop of the first DC on the back. So this is the right side for the front. This is the right side for the back. So I'm going to the back loop for this one and the back loop. So it's the loops that are closest to each other, if that makes more sense. And then we're going to pull through, and I'm just going to do 1 single crochet. I'm just going to do see what it looks like, because they make different looks. So that's single crochet, so that's giving you a step down. I'll do another one just so it's a little bit easier to see. So if I do those all as single crochet, it's going to give you a little step down line. The other thing you can do is you can do it through the back loop still and do it as a slip stitch. And I think I actually like this better. You can also do this as a crab stitch, which is a reversed single crochet. Now I like that because what it's doing is it's giving me a nice turned edge. Hopefully you can see that. See, can you see all the little loops? So that's what I'm going to do with this. And when I get to the corners, I will be doing 3 single crochets in the corners just to make them into corners. Hang on, let me just do this one. I'll double check that what I just said is right. So we get to the corner, we have 1 chain. Yes, I think I will, or I'll do 2. I'll wait until I get to the corner to decide that for sure. But it's usually single crochets into the chain 1 space. So we will just do this. I'll put this on time lapse, so you're not going to have to watch me do this for hours. Before I do that, if you find out you get to the end and they should, but if they don't, if your stitches don't match up when you get to the end, what you can do is you can put 2 of the back into 1 of the front. You want to keep the front looking 1 for 1, you know, 1 stitch to 1 stitch, but the back you can fudge 2 into 1. So you shouldn't be out by too many, but I wouldn't do it right on the corner. You get to the corner, you realize you've got too many at the back, pull it back, say, to about there, and do 2 into 1 here. So when you get to the corner, it's not going to bunch up right on the corner. So I will put the time lapse on now, and I will just do this row, and yeah, we will be finished, and we'll show you the finished product. All right, I got to the end and I didn't have to fudge anything. Yay! So I'm right at the corner here. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put these stitches into the back loop of the chain, just so we don't stretch anything too much out. So I'm actually just going to do 2, 1 for one side and 1 for the other, and then we start on the second time. So that was two single crochets just into the back loop of the chain, and it's just given me a bit of a point on the corner. Hopefully you can see that. Move that out of the way, maybe it'll show up better. Can you see that little bump there? That is my corner. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to keep going around here, and then I will be back with the finished blanket and show you what it looks like. Alrighty, we got it all finished, and here I'll show you one of the corners. So that's the front side and the back side. They look the same. If I bring it up a little higher, you can see the slip stitches up to here, and then we've got 2 single crochets in the corner, and we've done that all the way around, and we've got back to our original corner. Now I like to do a invisible join on the end of this. Sorry about that. So what do? Take that off, put that back again. So this is my last stitch before I join up. That's my end. I'm going to pull that through, and then I'm going to go under our first slip stitch, and then pick up the yarn, pull that through both of those, and then bring it into, you see how the yarn's coming out of the middle there? We want to bring it into there and pull it through, and then we will pull it through to the back. And so that has made what looks like another stitch right there in the middle. Don't put the black underneath. So there's last stitch, slip stitch, first stitch, and then we'll just weave this end in afterwards with a wool needle. Now other thing I want to say, this is, you can see the little yellow dots of my contrast thread. If you really don't like this, I did say you could slip stitch them. I was wrong. The right word I wanted to say was overcast stitch. You just thread up a wool needle with some of this yarn, and you just overcast between the stitches. So that's in, out, over, and it will just cover that up. I don't mind it, so I'm not going to do that because I chose a colour that worked well with the green. This also has added about 10 centimeters to all sides of my blanket, and it has increased the weight by about 150 grams. So it's made it a little bit heavier, but this was quite light in the middle. So that is how you do the envelope border. I hope that was a helpful tutorial. If you have any questions or comments, please put them down below the description box. In the description box, you'll also find links to my Discord and other social media that I have. So please feel free to comment and join, and I will see you on the next video.